Remember in the first period, he went off for an illegal stick? Well, he fired that baby about 100 miles an hour. I don't think it matters what kind of stick he uses.
Puck floated back off by Murphy, taken by Huffman, works it on to Eklund, breezes right in, and then he's wedged off by Motkov at the last minute. Eklund still sparring with Kostichkin, Motkov coming in, locked up there with Ron Sutter. Then in comes Gusarov to tie up there. Eklund wants to turn away, and Gusarov won't let him. Two aside continue the battle. Then Sutter had his stick held and responded with a hit on Motkov. But back out now come the Soviets, and Kostichkin moves in. Eyed up by Huffman. Good shot. Pad stop made by Peters. Huffman finesses it back over to Eklund. A minute 15 still to go on the Flyers power play. Here comes Brian Propp. Wants to get by but can't because of the checking of Konstantinov. It's rolled along, and Eklund is there. Ellie Eklund trying to turn from Davidov, put it off Kostichkin. Davidov wants to get ahead with it, but it's poked back in by Huffman. And so Pete Peters will swing to Huffman. Right in some traffic, though. Turning with this one now is Stepanishev. He has one of the Soviet goals, but this time he's ridden off by Murphy. Back ahead comes Pelle Eklund. Hooked at by Stepanishev. Enough to throw the play offside, so a strong play there by the Soviet forward. 45 seconds to go on the power play. 16:05 left in the second, and a 2-2 tie.
Well, this is the guy that took the penalty, Sergei Fedorov of the Soviet Union's Red Army team. He is the highest draft pick by an NHL team in the history of Soviets being drafted by National Hockey League teams, and he went 74th overall to Detroit. Year before last. 74th. He topped Alexander Mogilny by, what, 15, because Mogilny went 89th to Buffalo. But the day is going to come as Soviet players come over easier and easier year after year. The day will come that you'll see perhaps a first rounder, most definitely a second or third rounder in the next few years, perhaps.
Well, I've got a feeling that by the end of the decade that we may see a European division in this league, or at least a way of playing off against some of the better teams in the world, too. This one is kicked around by Mellanby into the corner. Mellanby is ridden along, and that could stop the influx of players from the Soviet Union as well as from places like Sweden and Czechoslovakia, but those are big ifs. Dave Poulin trying to stagger loose. Poulin checked on the play by Konstantinov, and Poulin rides him down. Dave Poulin, who will be our guest at the end of the second period, standing over Konstantinov, and he's still trying to work it along, and watching is Andy Van Helem, and he's blown the whistle. Will he signal a penalty? No, he's just going to rule that play was frozen. Penalty time is up on the call to Fedorov, and so the two teams are back at full strength with 15:20 to go in the second, and the game tied at 2.
I think Konstantinov wanted not only a stoppage of play, but I think he wanted who was playing Zorro on his back. I mean, Tony Horacek, when Dave Poulin ended up in this pile, started pushing people with his stick. There's Horacek right there going for the puck, but after the pileup continues, just watch Tony Horacek's stick on the right-hand side of your screen. There, one poke, see him go underneath. Then he actually, when Dave Poulin went down, comes over and pushes number 33 with his stick, but I don't think anybody got his number.
15:20 to go, second period of a 2-2 tie. Along with Bill Clement, Mike Emmerich from the Spectrum in Philadelphia, the Flyers and the Red Army, and we're glad that you've joined us tonight on Sports Channel. Just recently adding the Philadelphia area, and about 600,000 viewers, and more still to come. Puck turned around now, and Terry Karkner is after it to Acton. Steered one that is back checked away by Homutov, but across now it is Kravchuk trying to work it on, but Derek Smith was in the way. Then Kravchuk just freight trained along by the booming check of Keith Acton, who then went on and stepped into Sheryayev. Chikrin plops one right back in, and Mihalovsky stops it and spins it back around for Doug Sullivan to get to. Then Acton tried to throw it in front, but Kravchuk able to knock that one around. And so help has to come from Bykov. The big gunners are out now. Bykov has Kamensky alongside, hands over to Homutov. And he moves it ahead for Kamensky. Checked on the play by Murray Barron, who's seen some limited duty tonight. Now Murphy is there, stepped into by Homutov. Murphy laid it back along for Derek Smith, but it is cut off by Motkov. Dmitry Motkov on the defense, just controlling back to his own line. This one is knocked down by Murphy. Wants to work it ahead to Derek Smith. Murphy still trying to kick it, but the Soviets just outman. And with 14 minutes to go in the second of this 2-2 tie, they just circle and wait. Bykov with a pass, and here's a breakaway. Homutov, look, shoot, save, made by Peters. because of Peter's save on the Homutov breakaway. It is still.
Let's take a reverse angle look at this breakaway. Great pass from Chivirev up to Homutov. You know what he tried to do? He just tried to move to his left, hoping that Pete Peters would spread his legs and he could go into the 5-hole, but he really didn't give him enough move, and he hit Pete with it. Pete didn't go for it.
Oh, a shot by Biakin went wide. Malakoff trying to float one along to Biakin, but instead it's brought back up by Huffman. Gary Huffman for the Flyers just blasts one that's off the glove of Mihalovsky. And to the corner they go to battle for it, and it is Scheifele having that one knocked away by Eklund and brought back up and worked on by Fedorov. Fedorov has Petrov breaking to the net, circles the outside himself. Fedorov doing the spiral, works to the back. Shovel shot by Malakoff is blocked away by Eklund. Huffman guides it along to Kjell Samuelsson. 13-10 to go second period. Game tied at 2. Scheifele with a pass. Oh, and it handcuffed the breaking Brian Propp. Propp knocked down, that time by Fedorov, and the Soviets try to bring it back out. Samuelsson punched it into Petrov, and coming by is Biakin. Leaned on by Terry Karkner. Scheifele still trying to play. Kicking it along, though, is Davidov. Close quarters action. Davidov again. Works it out in front. Fedorov tried to get a shot away, but that one was blocked aside. Now it is Scheifele once more. Dumps it back out. Pivoting with it is Ron Sutter. Lays it back across. There have been 2 minor penalties apiece. Neither team has scored on the power play in this game, but both teams have a pair. 2-2 the score with 12:25 to go in the second. Quebec over Montreal 2-0 in the second. Detroit leading Minnesota 3-0 in the second. 2 other NHL regular season games with later starts. Here is Karkner sliding it across. Horacek blast one. Oh, what a scorcher that was wide. Francois Lacombe, or rather Norman Lacombe, unable to come up with that one. Now back ahead come the Soviets, and a shot by Kostichkin is knocked down by Peters. Rebound, Davidov, a shot blocked away. Kostichkin again to the point. Gusarov back over to Vodkov, a shot, and that knocked down by Chikrin. Pretty good Soviet attack that time, and the Flyers clear. They hurry it back along, and then just that quickly they go deliberate. Gusarov lays it back off to Davidov. Pestered by Sutter, and Davidov will just skate it all the way back. Wheels and drops off to Gusarov. They've got a trailer back at the line, Stepanichev. They don't get it to him. Instead, Davidov moves in. Heels off. Lays a pass over to Gusarov. His shot blocked away by Peters and scooped up by Berube. Greg Berube wheels it back out. Good pass on the money to Mellanby. Tries to get by Motkov, but can't. Oh, and the 2 of them went heavily into the boards. Poulin able to punch it away. Then along to Berube. Back for Dave Poulin. Finessed one to the front, knocked out by Mikulowski, and then played by Poulin once more. Poulin given a jolt from behind, that time by Chabirev. They spar along the boards, and Berube comes by. Greg Berube, cross-body to the boards. 2 aside, continue to burrow right into the corner. Shostin wants to be the 5th man, hoping it'll come to him, but it's Berube out front. He scores!
What a great play by Craig Berube. Jammed against the boards with Dave Poulin. Both Soviets had them tied up. Chastain, number 23 of the Red Army team, came in, and as the puck popped out, Berube had to reach way behind the net to get it. And then what he did immediately was pull it out in front of the goal line far enough that he couldn't be poke checked from Mikulowski. Watch how far out he pulls it. Way out in front of the circle, of the crease circle, and he also gave himself a good angle when he did that. So he really caught Mikulowski off guard and made a great offensive move. Well, I wonder if that will count towards his 10-goal bet with the trainers.
Well, let's see. There's one in L.A. that was wiped out.
That didn't count on the score sheet, but that the trainers counted.
Then there was one other goal that he scored on the road
in
St. Louis, and then he got this one. So as far as I'm concerned,
that's 3. You bet.
And still half a season to come up with 7 more. Do they count the warm-up? No, I guess not. Okay. Ahead with this now comes Stepanichev. Tries to center, but Huffman in the way. Craig Berube has just come up with a big goal to break the tie here. And as was the case with Joe Watson back in the last game played between these 2 teams 14 years ago. Oftentimes it is a player who doesn't score who registers a big one. How big it will be, still 30 minutes of playing time to determine. Stepping ahead is Stepanichev, a backhander, and that trapped by Peters. Pete Peters just controls and then paddles it ahead for Derek Smith. Knocked away from him, so Huffman has to help out. 9:55 to go in the second. Flyers have the lead 3-2. We'll get the scoring on that. Berube with Poulin the only assist at 9:11. Malakoff back to play on defense, turns it back along to Kravchuk. And then Kamensky. Kamensky's out. That means that Bekoff is out too, and he is. And also Homutov, who's breaking to the line. But Kamensky will carry. Turns by the defense. A backhander. It's saved by Peters. Rebound off of Homutov. And then it's controlled by the Soviets. What a turn that time by Bekoff. But he's forced back out by Propp. Boy, they sure have the fancy moves, don't they? Jeff Chikrin will go back to take this one for the Flyers. Flyers with the 3-2 lead in this game. 9 minutes and 15 seconds to go in the second. Shifley's pass up the wing is knocked loose, followed up by Propp. Tries to get in front and is ridden down on the play by Kravchuk. Play continues, though, as battling for it is Eklund, but turning it back up is Homutov. Now controlled by Bekoff. Nice finesse move on Eklund. Bekoff moving in. Turns away from Chikrin. Takes some lumber from Shifley. Kamensky with a nice poke check off his stick by Chikrin. Flyers can start it back up ice. Little pass on to Brian Propp. Shovels one in deep. Complete shift change for the Flyers. They bring out Murphy and Barron on defense. Horacek along with Lacombe and Sutter up front. Norman Lacombe recently gotten from the Edmonton Oilers, and here's Petrov in on a breakaway. He scores! Petrov has tied the game on what, by our count, is at least the fourth Soviet breakaway of the contest.
Well, the Soviets really have their invisible man game going now, and by that I mean their ability to get in behind the defense. That was strictly a kind of a double lateral cross in the neutral zone. One player went one way, Petrov went the other way, and you know, they start moving in so many directions that they really are difficult to pin down and to concentrate on. But you have to read when somebody is coming into your zone. In North American hockey and the National Hockey League, most often you end up in man-to-man situations in the neutral zone. Not against these guys. You've got to play a zone, cut off your own lane, make sure that your lane and your zone are filled, and then just make sure you read who's coming into it. But the Soviets have gotten behind the Flyers very regularly in this period.
Booming check on Biakin that time by Murray Barron. And back up now comes Murphy. Just flies one wide. Kucherov back to get it. Hit by Horacek and also by Ron Sutter at the same time. But on with it come the Soviets, and weaving his way in is Fedorov. Tries to get by Murphy and fan centered one, and Peters just tapped that one so that Sutter could get it. Good action in this contest. We hope you're enjoying it tonight on Sports Channel. A 3-3 tie with 7:40 to go in the second. Hoffman goes back. Taken to the wall, though, and help has to come from Murphy. Down the ice heavily went Davidov, and a giveaway. But the Flyers get it back just that quickly. It's kicked along by Konstantinov, but instead floated out by Horacek. Konstantinov goes back to get it. Soviets able to emerge. Kostichkin able to work to Davidov, then to Konstantinov. Flipped one trying to reach Kostichkin with it, but the Flyers are able to turn it back out, and Dave Poulin dumps it down deep. Malakoff back to get it, and Berube right near him, and Malakoff able to touch up for an icing. 7:08 to go in the second period. The score of the game 3-3. Let's pause for a regional break. You're watching the NHL Soviet Super Series on Sports Channel.
Period for Ron Sutter to a degree, but Dave Poulin's line has gotten a lot of ice time in the second period. Scott Millenby's on the right side, Craig Berube's on the left side, and with Berube scoring one, I got a feeling they're going to be out there at least every third time. We might even see this line on some power play.
Maslemikov on the faceoff. Puck comes to the back and went underneath Kravchuk. Worked ahead up the wing now for Poulin. Wanted to get it back to Mellenby, but Kravchuk buried him, and then a good hard hit this time by Shasteen. And Shasteen moves toward this one. Terry Kartner to get there first. Shasteen outfought him, though, and then Kartner came back heavily. They keep it alive, and stepping to the front is Maslemikov. Oh, and a pass broken up by Chikrin. Worked along for Berube, but the Soviets have it once more. Maslemikov had it stripped right off his stick by Poulin. Up the wing to Scott Mellenby, eyed up by Kravchuk. Mellenby pivots, takes a look, and finesses it to the back away from Murray Barron, and so the Flyers drop back. Shots on goal in this period for the Flyers 4 and for the Red Army 7. 6:20 to go in the second. Shots in the game 16-10 the Soviets. Murphy able to hand it along to Keith Acton. Acton smoked out by the forechecking of Shasteen, and then Wipes out on the play. Still they battle for it, and Acton recovered along the Motkov, and he's hit hard by Sullivan. Acton once more will head back behind with 6 minutes even to go in the second period. Dumps it back off, but Motkov up with it. The big line is out again. Bekoff to play it. Has Homutov alongside, but this time will hand back to Gusarov. Well, these guys are used to seeing 30, 35 minutes of action a game, and they're sure getting it based on the first 2 periods tonight. Here's Sullivan with the drop to Acton. Acton taken hard to the boards and glass by Motkov. It's rolled off by Kamensky. Kept alive by Huffman for a shot that's knocked out. Played over to Derek Smith. Smith with a backhander, and it went wide as there was a screen moving right into the goaltender in front. Out with it now comes Gusarov. They've got a 4-on-3, but the pass for Kamensky knocked away by Samuelson. And Kjell Samuelson turns away from the hook check of Kamensky, dropping one off that's kept alive by Bekoff, but canceled again by the long reach of 6'6" Kjell Samuelson. Up the wing now comes Derek Smith, taken to the boards hard by Konstantinov, and he'll just wedge one along to Gusarov with 5 minutes even to go in the second. Conclusion of the Soviet Super Series tonight on Sports Channel. 3-3 the score, the Flyers and the Red Army. There's one other game tonight, Moscow Dynamo going up against the Boston Bruins at the Boston Garden. The series is 9 wins for the NHL, 9 wins for the Soviets, and 1 tie. Pivoting with this is Brian Propp, scorer of the first goal in the game. Propp has a wedge from Eklund and an opening. Drops a pass, but it's checked away from Shifley. Swung right back in by Chychrun again. Fans really talking it up with the Let's Go Flyers chant as the pass sailed through Petrov. Petrov is the man who tied it on a breakaway just a few moments ago at 3. Brian Propp feeds one across, and it's tipped away from Shifley. And so the Soviets will regroup. Here is Petrov bringing it right back. Moving in, trying to get away from Shifley, and does. Petrov centered, but it went off of Jeff Chychrun. Turning with this one now is Fedorov to Petrov, and the shot that went wide. Now it's flung back in front by Shuryaev, but just bunted back along by Chychrun. They keep it alive. Kravchuk rolled it along the board. Stepping in, trying to get it is Fedorov. But it squirts right over to Chychrun, and Chychrun's pass is cut off quickly and turned back the other way, but off Biakin and brought up by Chychrun. 3 minutes and 35 seconds to go. Davidov turning with it. Davidov drops it back, and Biakin comes ahead. Across on the wing for Fedorov. Controls, moves to the front, and shoots one wide. Biakin again, but instead it's Shifley trickling one back. Again, the Soviets regroup, and it's Gusarov sent flying on a check from Tony Horacek. He's lost his stick, so he regathers one from the bench as you watch the play unfold near Karkner. Across with this now is Lacombe with a pass to Sutter. Moves in and shoots! And it's turned aside by Mihailovsky. Right back up as the hitting picks up in this game. Soviets bring it back. Davidov can't reach this pass. It's Sutter having it knocked away, but turned back out again by Murray Barron. Sutter in flight, moving along with Norman Lacombe, and a shot. Stick save. And then holding on is Mihailovsky as players crash the net. And now an altercation behind. Ron Sutter and Motkov, and quickly it is stopped. We pause now for a regional break. You're watching the NHL Soviet Super Series. A
couple of high sticking penalties to number 14, Ron Sutter of the Flyers, and number 32, Dmitry Motkov of the Red Army team. Mikhailovsky once again went down on the first shot, and he really had trouble controlling his rebound, was able to smother it, and behind him, the sticks were clashing. Sutter and Motkov.
Ron's brother, Rich, had a fighting major in this series with the Red Army. He and Fedorov went at it in the game in Vancouver that the Red Army won 6-0. That's been the only major penalty so far involving the Red Army in the series. In terms of fighting, I should say. They had majors in game misconducts the other night, one apiece in Chicago. Now they move it in, and they try for Chastain. Chastain wrapped up and just hauled to the corner by Kjell Samuelson, and he's slow to get up. Chastain appears to be hurt as the puck worked along to Mellanby. Then crisply back out to Dave Poulin. Poulin controlling, tries to center, but it kicked away, and Mellanby kept play alive. Couldn't finesse by, though, and ahead comes Stepanichev. Stepanichev shakes it back to Mesmelikov. Then Stepanichev controlling, shoots one, and it's blocked away by Peters. Dumped along by Dave Poulin. and gathered in by Chikrin in the last minute and 45 seconds of the second period of this game, and the score is tied at 3. And we have an icing call. Valery Shurayev touching it up. We'll return to the Spectrum in Philadelphia in 30. In a bus depot during World War II at age 10. He went to school and worked full-time, as many youngsters did in the Soviet Union during the war. Soccer was the first passion of Viktor Tikhonov. Later he became a defenseman for Moscow Dynamo and then assistant coach of that team. And then he took over the most important role in Soviet hockey, coaching the national team.
And he's never been accused of being one of the boys, that's for sure. Every once in a while you'll see him give one of the players a cuff on the back of the head.
Puck turned along, and Smith with a shot. That one is blocked down. Chikrin just waits. Hammers one, and that knocked down by the defense. Shoveled back along, and here comes Kamensky. He's got Homutov and Bikov with him. Kamensky crosses. Oh, a good wrist shot, blocked off by Pete Peters. Peters yielded on the first Soviet shot, but he's been pretty strong the rest of the way. And the same has been true for Maxim Mikhailovsky at the other end. Centering pass went off the net and ricocheted behind Chikrin, but it's fed away for the carry back out by Doug Sullivan in the final minute of the second period. Sullivan drops and Smith winds one around. Here is Acton pivoting. Looks to the front, but Smith is well tied up. And it is flung back on for Petrov to carry. Bringing it back up is Bikov. Headman pass over to Petrov. Petrov shoots one, and it went wide. Partly steered wide by Gord Murphy. Just 12 shots for the Flyers and 20 for the Red Army. There'll be an icing call on this one as Gord Murphy is back to touch it up.
Well, this team after this hockey game tonight, who's he talking to? They have a couple of days off. They go to New York tomorrow, and then the next day travel to Toronto and then grab an Air Canada flight to Frankfurt and then get back home. Sometime on Friday, they've got the weekend off, and Monday night their regular league schedule cranks up again. They have 16 teams in their elite league. They play a round robin home and home to start the season, so they play 30 games. They've completed that segment. 10 teams then make the next round. They'll go again with the round robin situation, home and home. They each play 18 more games. And then the winner is based on points in both of the round robin rounds. So 48 games total in their regular season, and this is the split of the season right now. They're going home to resume the second phase of it.
How good is Red Army? They've won 18 of the last 20 national titles. The Yankees and the Montreal Canadiens and the Celtics and all of those great powerhouse teams in the North American continent couldn't even approximate that.
No, but they're going to have to go some this year. You know, their six youngest players aren't with them. They went to the World Junior Tournament in Helsinki. But right now, after their first segment of in their home league, this team ranks second. They're tied with Moscow Dynamo for second, and it's the Chemik team, the chemist team, that's backed by the Association of Chemists, that is #1 by 4 points right now. So this team, the Red Army team, isn't used to being second to anybody.
Well, the second is ended here at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. It was a tie at the end of first, 2-2, and it's a tie at the end of second, 3-3. Craig Berube at 9:11 from Poulin, Petrov from Fedorov, and Gusarov at 11:31. After 40 minutes, it's a 3-3 to 11:31, a 3-3 tie. Of course, you've been brought up to date on Edmonton, Calgary, Montreal, Quebec. The shots 11-6 Soviets in the second. Those are some of the NHL rivalries, and I'm sure that there are big rivalries in that Soviet National League, too.
Yeah, there really are. Of course, with 16 teams, they're so spread out. Some of the teams, Mike, are literally thousands of miles apart. It's like Vancouver trying to have a rivalry with the Washington Caps. But there are two teams in Moscow. There are 4 in all. The two that have the biggest rivalry in the entire league, Spartak and the Soviet Red Army team. And the reason for the rivalry is that Spartak is the team of the people, and that the establishment team, I mean the ultimate establishment team, is the Soviet Red Army team. And the Spartak fans are generally younger. They have longer hair. They're the ones that like heavy metal music. I mean, it's really true. But the Spartak team has just been whomped for so many years that really the biggest problem in Soviet elite league hockey has been the absolute domination by the Soviet Red Army team. And that is something that hasn't happened this year. And I expect that their fan support is quite a bit better. It was a foregone conclusion for so many years that the Army was just going to beat everybody else up in the league.
So parity is starting to find its way into their league, too.
Sure.
They get, on the average game, the one that's not a key rivalry, they'll get 2,000-3,000 fans a game. And they even have question-answer sessions with the coaching staff at center ice. The fans submit questions during the game, and they've done this to try to help develop further interest on the part of fans. There are plenty of people in the Soviet Union who play the game, but not that many that like to pay the price of admission to watch. Andy Van Helleman ready to start play here in the third period. This game is deadlocked at 3. Hope you're enjoying the telecast tonight on Sports Channel. The Flyers and the Soviet Red Army. Puck controlled by Bykov. Shovels over to Kamensky. Kamensky trickles one, and Bykov around in front, and Peters knocked it away. Then another shot and a save by Peters, and he's able to grab it and hold on as Homutov was trying to poke it in from the side.
Boy, these guys have such good hands, this Bykov line, but even more than that, Mike. You know, we talked about the units and how the Soviets play in units of 5. Well, these 3 forwards, Kamensky on the right side, number 13, and there's Bykov, number 19, Homutov, number 15. They played as a line together in both the Canada Cup in 1987 and Rendezvous 87. So they've been playing and practicing with one another for at least 3.5 years now. And we often talk about how National Hockey League coaches mix and match very often and mix their lines up. Boy, these guys know one another blindfolded.
Here is Shell Samuelson moving ahead with Prop. Samuelson just controlling it. Shovels to Prop, but it's off his stick behind. Prop to the back to Huffman. Shoots one, and it went just wide. Trying for the deflection was Scheifele. Now Prop tries to nudge it along, but it went off of Eklund. Brought back up by Kamensky, who pivots back and lays it over to Malakhov. Malakhov's pass right on the money to Homutov. Handles over to Bykov, but he collides after being checked by Prop. And it is Huffman knocking one around the wall. It comes to Scheifele. Then ahead for Pelle Eklund. Gee, it seems the lights are dimming here. Eklund locked up right at the Soviet boards, right in front of their bench. Punched along now by Biakin. What?
Didn't hear anybody yell last call, did you?
No. In goes Karkner. And Karkner and Biakin tie up. Trying to go along as Petrov, but he ran into plenty of trouble from Calahoo, Alberta, and Greg Berube. And it is jabbed right back out by Scheifele. Fresh from the bench, picking this one up is Fedorov, but that one is deflected loose. Biakin can't handle, and so going back now is Shiryayev. Kravchuk with a pass that is tipped loose by Fedorov and gathered in by Karkner. Then that one by Dave Poulin and back down for an icing call. That will bring the face-off near Peters. Early goings, period number 3. Both teams with 3 goals. Chibirev lining up for the face-off with Acton. And it is Murray Barron playing for the Flyers defense. Right back off to Doug Sullivan. Followed up by Murphy. Check loose by Kostichkin. He's got a man in front. Davidov, he scores! Davidov has broken the tie. It's 4-3 Red Army. So maybe that will pay in portion for the illegal stick call that he got early.
Boy, what a play by Kostichkin, and did Davidov ever bury it. But Gord Murphy was put in a tough spot. Doug Sullivan gave him the puck when he really was in a tough area to try and handle it. Kostichkin, number 27, had to elevate this pass. Watch it. It'll come right up over Murray Barron's stick, but like so many Soviet passes, it will land flat right on Davidov's stick. Bingo. Right up over Pete Peters. That was a pretty goal. But once again, I point out that Gord Murphy was put in a tough spot. Here we go again.
Kostichkin with a shot, and Peters got his pad on that one. And then it is played by Samuelson. So the Flyers trail in the game. This one drilled back in by Samuelson. And around the glass, it ripples over for a toss by Derek Smith that's flipped loose. Then Sullivan tried to center, but it's headmanned on out to Kostichkin once more. Kostichkin trickles one through Murray Barron and then wrestles with him as you see Peters turn it along to Samuelson. Banks it back up the boards. Doug Sullivan starts it out to Acton, moving along with Derek Smith. Acton tries to turn by Gusarov, but is bumped off. Acton trying to center again, and Gusarov said no again. Orniet. Back up now comes the Red Army unit. Turning with it and bringing it in is Chibirev. Heads back behind the net and centered on the back of the goal. Murphy taking over there. Lays one out, but Ron Sutter just given a bump, and boy, did he ever jab his stick in the direction of Konstantinov several times. It is Malakhov controlling for the Red Army to Chibirev and back again to Malakhov. Just under 17 minutes to play here in the third period as the puck drilled out of play, and so again the clock stopped with 16:56 left in the third. Soviets 4-3. Raucous crowd here at the Spectrum in Philadelphia chanting "Let's go Flyers" for their home team that is trailing in the game 4-3. The Soviets scored first, the Flyers got 2 and were ahead 2-1. The Soviets tied. Flyers made it 3-2 and the Soviets tied again late in the second. And then it was Davidoff breaking the tie here in the third from Kostichkin at 1:55. Puck frozen again. Well, this goaltender Mihalovsky has only had to face 13 shots, but he's been good.
He has been pretty good. What the Flyers, and we talked about this early, and we even did a telestrator segment on it, they know the Soviet goaltender's tendencies. Most of them go down on the first shot, and if you can get there for a rebound, you're in business. But the Soviets have done a really good job of even holding the Flyers off from the first shot, let alone anybody getting there for the rebound. No, Mihalovsky isn't even their starting goaltender in their regular league. Arthur Erdbe, the smaller guy who has played all of the games in this series except this one, was picked up from Dinamo Riga as a replacement for the Red Army's #1 goalie who pulled a groin before this tour started.
Puck popped wide, going to get it as Shastin, cleared, but Chychrun is there, shoots! Oh, and it was deflected en route by Scheifele, but tipped away by Mihalovsky. Dumped along, and Kartner tries to kick it further, but it is trickled across the goal mouth and worked back out now for the carry by Stepanishev. He's one of the goal scorers in this game for the Soviets, but can't connect with Shastin. Instead, ahead with it comes Eklund. Eklund fires, he scores! You don't see the big slapper often from him, but you did that time, and it has tied the game.
Mike, he's going to have to dust that baby off. What a blast, but once again, and this time it burned him. Watch Mikhailovsky, watch the goalie on the left of your screen. As soon as Pelle Eklund wound up for that shot, he went down and committed early, and now he's waving his arms and said, well, I can't see it. Maybe one of the reasons he couldn't see it is he went down too quickly. That one went right by Gusarov's skates, #5, and right up over Mikhailovsky. And Pelle Eklund has tied this game at 4, and there's a lot of hockey left. 16 minutes to go.
Well, the big line is back out again for the Soviets. Bykov over to Homutov. Couldn't get through Samuelson, then Mellanby goes down. Mellanby tests there with Bykov and emerges with it. Scott Mellanby for the Flyers flips one that clicked off Craig Berube. Gusarov goes back to get this one. 15 minutes and 35 seconds to go in the third. Forechecking by Mellanby nearly paid off, but it's Gusarov wheeling and stopping. Puts it on the turning stick of Bykov. Trickled a pass ahead, got some help from Kamensky, and then he was taken to the boards hard by Berube. Gusarov moving with it. Just a deafening roar and chant here at the Spectrum. Dynamo leading Boston 1-0 in the third at the Boston Garden. 4-4 is the score as Berube strides to that one, but it comes right back over to Kamensky. He's dangerous. Not that time as Samuelson took him out. Peters scoops it behind. Barron drops it off the boards. Berube stepped in too. And an offside will now be whistled down. Will it go all the way? Yep, that's the signal. Back it'll come near the Soviet goalie when we come back.
That I saw Mikhailovsky get a piece of that. It almost looked like it was going over the net and that he brought it down. But most times you're safe backing in on Eklund because he won't wind up and let it rip.
Oh, and a shot that time from Huffman knocked down by Mikhailovsky. Fedorov able to finesse one, lays it back up the wing. Biakin to play it. Has a man breaking, but will carry on in himself, and then it's just poke-checked away from Murphy. Boy, what an atmosphere. This is really emotion charged here at the Spectrum. It was rather calm earlier tonight, and by a long shot different than what we had heard in 1976. But they have regained some old form here. What a hit that time by Derek Smith. Turning with this is Huffman, spins it back out off of Smith and shoveled back further by Sullivan. Stepping back for this now is Krevchuk. 14:09 to go in the third period. If you're just joining us, you still got here in time. This game is tied at 4-4. Jeff Chychrun unable to keep, and so Kartner is back. Terry Kartner takes a look up the wing. The pass tipped by Sutter. Moving ahead with it now is Lacombe, and Lacombe forced back behind the net. Norman Lacombe saw it worked up the boards. Kartner turned it back to Lacombe again. Dealt it off for Sutter. Ron Sutter centers. It went by Horacek and marched right back out by Davidoff again. Sized up by Jeff Chychrun. Davidoff finesses. Up the wing for Kostichkin. Chased off by Horacek, but Kostichkin tries to regain control. The battle continues in the corner. To a side and walking away with it. Davidoff hooked down. Davidoff ragging. Oh, and a couple of Flyers tried to get Davidoff. Maybe they did. He's out flat, but Lacombe and Horacek also hit each other. Davidoff is very slow to get up. Play continues now. We get the whistle blown by the linesman Pat DiPuzzo. and Davidov will be tended to. We pause for a regional break. You're watching the NHL Soviet Super Series on Sports Channel.
Number 11. Now Jeff Chikrin has one part of the sandwich working, but he leaves him, and Horacek will come from the right. And Norm Lacombe right there, boom. Now they caught Davidov a little bit up high. He went down and stayed down for a long time. You can see him holding his head. The trainer never went out to take care of him.
The wrap-up of the tour for the Soviets. A game that the Flyers hierarchy did not want to play. Most of the players didn't either, but they said it's a game, and so we're going to come and we're going to be prepared, and they have been. Been entertaining all the way, especially here in the third. Boy, every trip to the net can be the one that'll turn this game around. It's tied at 4. Turnaround shot is blocked off. Samuelsson advances to Propp, then up to Pelle Eklund. Eklund dumps one in. Scheifele goes right after it. Shoulders there with Motkov. Came up with it, centered, and Propp unable to control. Then in close quarters to Scheifele. Locked up in the corner, gets it back to Propp, given a shove by Gusarov, and he's able to control for the Soviet defense. Nice pass ahead, steered back up the wing, and moving on is Stepanichev, and then he was hit by Murray Barron, and a centering pass went across the goal mouth from Maslemakov. Here is Craig Berube, hit by Malakov, trying to finesse his way through, and hip check down by Gusarov. Back up the wing, the Soviets change on the fly, and here comes Bykov again. Bykov just turns back out, gets some help from his defense, but the highest scoring line is out there once more with just over 12 minutes to go in the third period. Ahead now comes Kamensky as Berube tried to line up a man. Kamensky wants to fight his way through, and hanging on to it is Pete Peters.
Ooh.
Boy, if Berube would have gotten Bykov, it might have been another case like Davidov had, where he might have needed help to get off.
Well, I think the Flyers can still go a long way to helping themselves, Mike, by making sure that they carry through with their hits and take the bodies. I mean, there have been some crushing hits here in the third period, and this one by Murray Barron on number 34, Anatoly Stepanovic, was huge. Shook that glass all the way down. But we also got to look at how slippery Kamensky is, number 13. He tried to sneak in between the Flyers defense, and he's got great speed, but he's also got some slipperiness too. You know, he reminds me of Mario Lemieux. I mean, he's got a long stride, he's got very soft hands.
Well, Acton on the draw with Bykov to the back, Malakov, and a shot that went off Kamensky and is taken by Sullivan. He lifts it along, trying to keep it as Konstantinov. And it is poked loose and carried out by Doug Sullivan. He has Derek Smith moving nearby, and then they nearly collide, and the play breaks down. Oh, nice finesse move by Homutov, working up the wing now to Kamensky. They crisscross. The drop for Homutov, cut off by Smith. Gets it back from Sullivan in a 2-on-2 with Keith Acton. Derek Smith moves in and fires one that's blocked out. And then it's forced away by Bykov. Turned back on for Kamensky, and Biakin dropped for Kamensky, and then it's carried on in. Oh, and a shot that went wide off of Shiryaev. And behind the net, it's locked up against the back, and then eventually played by Kartner. Cut off by Kamensky. Kamensky controlling. Beats the slot. Oh, and a big save by Peters on Fedorov that time. It is Kamensky again. Rustled off by Acton. Drops a pass, and Chikrin is there. Quickly on him is Fedorov. Kept alive by Kravchuk. To the slot it goes. Pivoting, trying to control is Briakin, and then it is cut off and worked back up to Derek Smith. So down it goes, and the Flyers change. They have Ron Sutter out. They bring Lacombe out on his right, and a steal by Sutter. Feeds over for Lacombe to Horacek. Oh, and it was poked away by the defense. And back up come the Soviets with it. A pass ahead for Gusarov. Tried for Biakin, but instead gets Murray Barron. Boy, Barron has been a thundering presence in this game too, hasn't he? Horacek's pass, oh, and it came right on the money. It's kept alive by Fedorov, then over for a shot by Petrov that went wide. Fedorov once more works to the back to Motkov. Slipped one in front, and Biakin couldn't cash in. Oh, and what a hit on him. Score by Gusarov after a plastering hit by Tony Horacek. Gusarov has broken the tie with 10:06 to go in the third. It is now 5-4 the Red Army.
I thought the Flyers were going to be able to get out of trouble. But when Tony Horacek just left his man Petrov against the boards, that left Gusarov wide open to blast this one by Pete Peters. I thought he had it, though. It looked like an unscreened kind of shot. That one by Biakin just slipped by, and then Biakin got leveled, but Gusarov just ripped one by Pete Peters. If I was going to measure another stick, you know whose I'd measure? Gusarov, number 5. From here, it looks pretty big to me, too.
Well, the Flyers will have to fight their way back into this one. We'll mention again, this is being played under NHL rules, so they will play a 5-minute sudden death period, but the Flyers are trailing in this one by 1 with just under 10 minutes to play in the third period. Boy, it's just been a thrill a minute here tonight. Puck controlled by Eklund. Checked off, though, and fought to the corner by Konstantinov. Still along the boards, two-a-side battle. Shifley trying to pull it away. Number 38 for the Flyers. Eklund in there, too. Eklund got a little bit of room, flipped it along hoping for Shifley, but instead it is tended behind. Popped up by Brian Propp. Malakoff able to turn it along, but still some difficulty for the Soviets to get up ice with it. It is Chabirev working a pass ahead. Carried back in by Kostichkin. Shovels one in front, but Murphy up with that one. Murphy has a man up the wing. It is Eklund, but he'll carry along himself. Murphy can't finesse through the defense, and help comes from Mihailovsky. Just sets it up now by Shuryayev. And Shuriayev's pass goes all the way by Davidov and down. Partner gets there first. Icing the call. Clock frozen, 8:51 to go in the third. It's the Red Army 5 and the Flyers 4. We pause now for a regional break. You're watching the NHL Soviet Super Series. Every draw a big one at this point. Dave Poulin takes it for the Flyers, but the face-off is won by the Soviets, and Shasteen is